Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Pitch Us. Super excited to have Udit here today to tell us more about his company. My name is Tim Cooley. I am the author of the Pitch Deck book. I really wrote this book to help people present. We see lots of misinformation out there on pitching, and a lot of people actually just forget things. And so I wrote this book, lots of helpful advice in there, and I'd like to share that. So Udit, please share your screen and then go ahead and pitch us.
Sure.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Hello everyone. I appreciate Tim for providing this opportunity to present Ador. And Ador, as the name suggests, is about respect and love, admiration in relationships. And Ador is India's first platform that is like holistic relationship tech, which is surrounded around interests and growth mindset. So the best way to define adore is understanding that we all connect and we all have some sort of shared interests. And the intersection of both of them is the personal growth as well as holistic growth. And Adore is like India's first holistic relationship tech platform that connects individual based on growth mindset with shared interest, personality, and hobbies. The mission of Adore is to touch and impact 10 million lives in the domain of relationship and connections by enabling education, experiences, and corrections. So, the major issue is that there is no one stop platform where individuals can access holistic experience around relationships and growth mindset. And that's what makes it very important that there is like a platform where end to end services are available. And most of these apps or the platforms are more focused on superficiality, which is primarily say looks, whereas they should be more focused on holistic personality of individual, which is comprising of their interest, personality, and hobbies. And the brand appeal is also very important, that individuals know what or how or why they are coming on the platform, what is the core value proposition of how they will be interacting. Will they interact for a serious relationship? Will they interact for friendships? So that is also very important. And that's where it is important to create a platform where meaningful, inclusive, and authentic connections are happening based on personality and interests of individuals, where they have growth mindset in pursuing serious connections. So we have a very beautiful insight, which is interests. They allow us to expand ourselves, which ultimately helps us connect, as well as they enable personal growth. So interests are at the intersection of personal growth as well as connections. And that's why when we connect individuals based on shared interest and hobbies, they are on that particular arena where they also connect with each other seamlessly, and on the same time they also experience holistic growth. And that's why, as you can see on Adore, individuals can express and explore based on various interests and hobbies. To give you an example of Sarah, who is having, say, sort of interest in fitness and music, she can upload her photograph, write detailed description, mention proficiency level for both of these interests. Once she does that, our proprietary algorithm will suggest her different profiles in common and complementary interest categories. And she gets this suite of amazing profiles that are very, very much aligned to what she is doing. And that's where she ends up with connections which are very much relevant to her particular interest profile. And that's what we said, that expressing your interest, exploring them, and creating a 360-degree profile is important. And when they go on inside of a recommendation tech, you get the sort of profiles that are very much compatible to who you are. And that's what we see is on the market landscape, there are apps who are solving the search part of it, which helps you connect with like-minded people. But there is no one holistic relationship tech platform which is doing search, which is doing content, which is doing education, which is doing interactive activities and engagement, coaching in just one go. And what we understand is there is a need for a one stop platform which is catering to all these things in an in-depth way. And Adore is that platform which does that by keeping interests and growth mindset as foundational levers for connections, education, and experiences. So we have received phenomenal traction wherein the ratio of like to pass, which is the fundamental matrice that we are tracking, is 5 times improved than industry standards. So when we started this particular platform, it was having a like to pass ratio which was reasonably well compared to conventional industry standards. And we stress tested this platform by increasing the number of engagement by 5 times and proportion of females by 200 times. And we wanted to check what is happening to like to pass ratio, and it showcased counterintuitive growth. So counterintuitive growth is the magic, because what we observed is like to pass ratio increased when the proportion of females and the count of engagement increased on the platform. And that's where the magic happens, because now people are interacting with each other based on their interest, hobbies, and personalities. And that's where they're getting more engagement, more connections, and more quality conversations, which is completely a game changer. And that's where in very big internet economies this shift is prevalent, where connections will now be primarily based on interest, hobbies, and personality. In India, if any platform has successfully validated it, it's Adore. And it has validated it with a very mature product which is built on a global quality tech stack. We are privileged to have a very holistic go to market strategy, which is a mix of, say, order conversation, performance marketing, partnerships, getting in touch with experts, matchmakers, coaches. And Adore Conversation is one of our conversation channel wherein we invite leaders to talk about their stories of following their interest and hobbies. Till now, 80 plus leaders from Miss India, Miss Trans Global, world record holders in dancing, TV celebs have come on our platform, and they've talked about their stories of following their interests and their organic stories with lots of inspiration and lots of nuggets of wisdom. And that's what enables lots of inspiration and lots of reach across the social media. On top of it, we have cracked performance marketing, wherein our innovative campaigns across both male and female sides have brought down the customer acquisition cost by 60% of industry standards, because we now know what exactly is the communication required for all sorts of target audience across different locations and cities across different genders. And as I mentioned, the core differentiator that we are having is this unique insight that interests are the primary levers for connection and personal growth. And our particular sort of algorithmic tech has enabled this improved counterintuitive growth, which is for its first time in India. So, interest, hobby, and personality based connections is introduced by Adore in India for the first time. The like to pass ratio is showcasing counterintuitive growth backed with the recommendation tech. And we are very much prone to become a brand which is like sort of a mass brand. And the core insight here is that the relationship tech platform is not required to be aspirational. Okay, what happens is all these platforms, they create a sort of aura where individuals need to be very aspirational, whereas the individuals need to be just themselves. They just need to come out and express. Instead, the platforms, they need to be a very high end, aspirational, and in depth. And that's where Adore is completely changing the game. On conventional platforms, only 10% of audience receives engagement. Like 10% of males receive engagement similar to 70% of females. And that's a very big sort of a gap. How we can bridge it? by connecting them in a more proper manner, which is in depth and meaningful. Adore is completely revamping it by improving that particular number from 10% to at least 50%. So 50% of males are getting engagement similar to 50% of females. Now that's a sort of connections or the ratios which will increase the number of matches phenomenally when this thing scales up. And that's where I need to showcase the role of impact, the role of conversations, what the youth is talking about, how they're interacting, how they're engaging. Growth mindset is important. Talking about impact, especially sustainable development goals, is important. At least they can showcase that, okay, I stand for hunger, or I stand for removing poverty or access to quality education. When they express this thing on their profile, and when the conversations are happening on impact, they are more quality conversations and they are bound to have more impact. And that's where we are also bound to inculcate sustainable development goals on both expression and expression levels on Adore. And that's where the market is huge. In India itself, which is a land of 1.5 billion people, 50% of population is below 28 years of age. India is one of the youngest nations, and that's what gives a very big market. On top of it, the market drivers like say smartphone, increased smartphone penetration, very affordable data prices, which have seen lower tariffs since 2019, backed with a very mature adoption of matchmaking services, coaching services, as well as the suite of services, gives us a very big market of at least USD 7 billion across globe. And the serviceable obtainable market is 125 million USD in India and US. Business model primarily comprises of a mix of in-app purchases, which is comprising of all club memberships. Ads is one of the very important levers for monetizing any platform, especially a B2C platform, as well as online events, Adore University, which is education and digital gifting. Out of this five business models for this particular stage, we have already implemented first two business models, which is club memberships and ads network. And we have optimized the play of both this club memberships and ads network in a way that the experience is enhanced, and at the same time monetization power is coming out of the platform. And we are expecting a very good LTV to CAC ratio of 3 is to 1 out of both of this business models that are already been implemented on the platform. So our team comprises of complementary skill sets wherein more than 12 to 13 members across product, tech, marketing, and finance have come together with expertise in startups. And it's because of this complementary skill sets that we know what sort of product levels are important, what sort of decisions are required to be made in terms of say tech and finance. And that has helped us create, or that has enabled the creation of a global quality tech platform with innovations that are having counterintuitive growth. So for this round, we are raising 750,000 USD, and that will primarily enable impacting 2 million 2 million users in top 20 cities of India, and to reach monthly active users of monthly revenue rate and annual revenue rate of 300,000, with a very good monthly active user and daily active user base. So this is me. You can reach me out on udit@adormatch.com, and you can check out our website comprising of all the innovations, all copyrights, trademarks, and proprietary recommendation tech we are having. Adore is a registered brand. On top of it, we also have copyrights and trademark in the core geography of operations, and that's about us. Yeah, it's great to showcase Adore to all of you, and I would love that you check out our platform as well as our Instagram channel, which is having the user ID Ador Match. Yeah, great. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for presenting. Let me tell you some things that I really liked about your presentation, and then I'll tell you areas where I think it can improve. And what's nice about this now is I can control the presentation, so I feel like I have power, even though I don't. So a couple things. One, it's clearly you're passionate about this industry. I love seeing that. I also think that some of these slides read really, really well. I think some of them we can tweak a little bit. And your team seems pretty good. And honestly, your traction is very impressive. I know this is a really growing space. And so I think we can tweak some things to help get the message across a little bit better. And so that's really what I want to jump into and help you really shine in those traction elements. So I'm just going to go from front to back if that works for you. And I might jump around a little bit. So let's get to the beginning here. Okay. So this is great. I like the simplicity of just this slide. I think you can spend less time talking with this slide up. And one of the elements that we're going to get into here is you say holistic relationship and growth platform, right? But that's never defined. You never tell me what it means to be a holistic relationship, and you never tell me what it means to be a growth platform. And that comes out in the problem statements as well as in the solution. I don't see what either of those things mean, other than they're kind of like fun little relationship and buzzwords. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so a mission, I think this is fine internally. I don't think mission statements add much value into a pitch deck. Other people would disagree. But I kind of want to get right into what it is that you're trying to solve, other than like a mission or vision statement. Up to you. If people like it, that's fine. I just don't see any value in them. And again, argue with me. That's fine.
No, that's perfectly fine. You're like sharing your inputs based on, the varied experience. So that's important. Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing I think that really can set us up for success, right? So this is the hardest part of the pitch is communicating the problem statement. I think what you need to do here is communicate the problem with current applications very clearly, right? So you mentioned it, right? This one of the issues is the engagement rate between men and women. It's very different. It's very lopsided towards women. Men get they get shafted basically, right? And yet they're the ones spending most of the money. And so this is a problem. And when you come to your traction, you kind of start to show that you're solving that. And I think that's a really big thing here, right? I don't think you just mention coaching here. I'd like to know more about what that actually means, here. So like you don't get dating advice, you don't get how to introduce yourself, you don't get how to dress better, like whatever that means. I think you could pull each one of these out into its own separate slide and then show me what's missing from the other applications. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And you could still spend the same amount of time, right? But now we get to then we get to whatever you guys are going to build. So another couple things here is again, holistic personality. Like that needs to be explained if you want to use it. And then the third one here, apps don't lead to lifelong partnerships. They do. So I would remove this one and focus more on these, like Tinder doesn't do this, Bumble doesn't do this, the apps in India don't do this, right? So I would get much more specific on what the current products aren't doing than these. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now again, so now we're setting up to where we're going to go. So now I want to see, this is an okay slide. I think you can remove this top part and just say like Ador is this product that does this, right? Let me show you what we're doing, and then you can move right into the solution itself. Same thing here, as I think you can pull out each one of these elements, again, based off of whatever the problems were that you were communicating early on. One thing you might want to think about, as because you said you launched the product and then something was working really, really well. And then you're like, what is working really, really well? Then we invested more effort into that. I believe that's what you said, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. One thing you can do is say, hey, look, here's the problem with the market. Here's how we built this solution to solve those things. And then almost get into traction pretty early in this case. And you're like, look, we launched it, we ran a beta, here's what we learned. And now you're reintroducing kind of like a problem statement, and then you're going to solve that again. I call it a problem solution introduction. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a lot of people, and this is for people who are out there, you got your MVP, you only learned what you learned because of the MVP. And that is critical to what the new solution is. And I think that's really where you guys are at, if I'm correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
we are like at the very mature stage of product right now. It's post-product stage.
Yeah.
And before MVP, the core like to pass ratio thing, holistic relationship type platform thing were not built. And after reaching that mature product stage, we validated that 10% engagement thing, which I mentioned earlier, which showcased counterintuitive growth. So yeah.
Yeah, so I
That
would do that. I would start off with like a generic problem statement. You built a solution, launched it. Here's what you learned. And then now you're building this new solution to solve all those other problems. I think that will clean up a lot of the beginning. And if you can demonstrate it, will get us right into the meat of the product. Because most of us are very familiar with these types of products, even if people don't even use them. Someone they know is using them, right? Okay. A lot of people still don't know that there's major problems with them. So you can do a good job there. Okay. Once you get through the solution, I would go right into the business model. And I know your business model is kind of, it's down here. So two things. One is if you're pitching to US investors, I would put the US price here and the Indian, I think it's rupee, right? Rupee price. Just so people know what it, just so I don't know what 799 INR translates to. It could be $10. It could be $1 billion.
Yeah, around $10.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So just put that so I have an idea as an American, because I don't know. The other things is here is I would make sure that you pull out that like where do you think your real revenue is coming from? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, like 8 different revenue models. I would try.
In total, there are 5 broad revenue models.
Yeah.
In that mix of like say in-app purchases, personalized services to proprietary advertisement network, which is a B2B play.
Right.
Okay, so mix of B2B, B2B2C, and B2C models, which are optimized in its own particular way.
Are all of these fully active today? Or are these still like
First 2 of them are completely active.
Okay.
And I consider that they're pretty much good to go for this particular round, because instead of implementing all of them in just one go, just focus on 2 business models which are already implemented and working around them.
Okay. So then for this presentation, I would just build it around these 2 for now. Because the other ones it's a hard slide to read, right? So you could pull out each one of these, right? And if we don't have a projection slide. I would add that like a forecast. And then you could say in-app purchases looks like this over time. Ads looks like this over time. And by year 3, you can make like a little asterisk or something and say, we plan to look, we're going to start looking at new business models at that point. But right now, these are our 2 primary ways. Does that make sense? So again, you're just trying to reduce confusion.
Makes sense. Like 2 of them are implemented and 3 of them are in the pipeline, and this is how we are aiming to implement.
Yep. And then what you can do is, so now once I have these numbers, right, from here, then I can sit back and you can give me your
How
financial
big the
projection.
market is. Hmm.
Yeah, because I don't know where this 600 or the 6 billion came from, right? I can't connect the dots of how you got from your $10 a month
Hmm.
to 6 billion, right?
So they might be in my Excel sheet, but they're not coming out here.
Yeah, they're not, I'm not connected with it at all.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. And so again, so if we look at this, right, oh, go in the wrong direction here. So let's say if I take this, and again, I don't know what 9 benefits, 6, I don't know what those mean. So
Hmm.
anything you put in here, you have to explain,
Hmm.
right? So what is a benefit? Like what is one, you know?
I'm
Okay.
getting, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, so explain all of that. And again, those benefits should have come out in the solution. So we have these 8 benefits. People can do something with them. Maybe you have to play around with that.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so financial projections will lead into this slide. If all the numbers make sense, your total addressable market should make sense as well. Because if we just did the real quick math, it would be 6 billion divided by 10 divided by 12. And that would be like every single person who could buy is paying that top tier price.
Hmm.
And that's unreasonable, right?
No, so it is calculated based on a very you know in-depth approach, wherein we came with this numbers, and we do have like this Excel sheet, which is summing up all these numbers and how we reached 7 billion USD market.
Okay.
So yes, we do have like a reasonable and logical approach, and it's not that everyone needs to purchase the
Okay.
package to reach this time.
Cool. Yeah, so as long as you can explain it, that's fine. And I would also, if you are going to use the rupees here, use them here as well, just so you can again, because you're probably going to go to
It's
Indian
consistent,
investors and
everyone. Yes.
American,
Hmm.
and you won't have to change it. You'll just be like, it is, and you can, if you're speaking to an American, you just use the American uh, translation
Hmm.
conversion. Uh,
Consistent currency notations everywhere.
yeah, yep. Okay. So that's the business side of it. Let's go into the traction. Okay. This is a pretty interesting slide, and I'm going to come back to it here in a second. I love this from a traction point of view. I think you could split these two into 2 slides and give more visual representation of all these influencers. Use bigger words and stuff. You can kind of cut out the top line here just to give you more space because we get it. You can put the word traction or whatever. You mentioned a lot about this customer acquisition cost. I think it's actually important you could show that over time. You're like, look, it was $10. Now we've gotten it down to 7. And we think that that's going to be healthy. We do know it's going to go up in the future, but for the next little bit, here's kind of our projection, similar to like a forecast slide. You could use this. Again, it's just showing your ability to convert people. And so I would separate them. Okay, so this slide here I think is like really, really interesting. This was really hard to read. So it's going to sound interesting. You said like this 1.15 is better, and it is. But my brain, for some reason, looks at 1.5 as better, and it's not. So
It's perceiving 1.5 as good.
it's good.
The number looks good, 1.5, but it's like 1 is to 1.5 is actually good.
Yeah. So you might want to look into doing this again. Maybe separate these 2 charts so that you can give it more space. You can do something with colors, like maybe make it red, or like maybe add some visuals here. It's like even like a female icon to male icon, and then you're like, whatever. I think you can add some more visual elements to show like, would you rather have a 1 to 1.5 ratio or a 1 to 5? Again, I like this idea, ratio to likes and to dislikes. It's pretty cool. I just don't think you verbally told me, but I don't think visually it got what you wanted across. And same thing with this chart. these are such good numbers. And if you go back to problem solution, you're like, look, this connectivity was the problem, and look, we kind of solved it, and it's actually getting better over time. And I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, so we are showcasing how counterintuitive growth came into picture.
Yep.
And it's like for me also it's very surprising because before MVP what we sought him was that like to pass ratio was 1:3. And I was like, it is pretty much good to go based on the MVP stage. It's good to go. And now let's just stress test it. I call it stress test it. So let's now increase the engagement 5x times. Let's now increase the number of females, proportion of females, because females are choosy, right? And I was like, let's see what happens on the platform. What is interest, hobby, personality actually making sense or not?
Yep.
And we tested at the same time across both the variables, increased engagement also, increased proportion of females also. So the
Awesome.
platform went through a lots of grind, and then I was like, let me now track like to pass, and I was like, it's improving. And that was counterintuitive. And then we realized that okay, it's because of interest, hobby, personality. Because
Yeah.
now even a male in tier 2, tier 1 city is showcasing that he's into fitness, he's into yoga, he's into dancing, and that's why he's getting this engagement. And that's where, in spite of female being choosy, they are now understanding and interacting with the in-depth personality of an individual. So that was
Yeah, I
very good.
think that if you can go into more detail about that in the solution, about because again, you didn't show it at all. Like I didn't be like, you can rank guitar at 6 and trumpet at 2 or whatever. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
didn't feel that part of it.
Mhm.
And you're saying like, look, that was an accident, and it actually worked out really, really well for us, right?
Mhm.
So let's go forward here. That's a good slide. Um, again, this is cool if you're gonna you use this traction, but you want to preface this like with like a quote or something up at the top, like a
Mhm.
user testimony or something, just so I know what I'm reading.
So she is like sort of a brand ambassador with us.
Okay, yeah. So say something up, but just put up at the top here, like brand ambassador testimony or something, just again, so I know what I'm reading.
Mhm.
Okay. This was another solution slide, and I think this is just very cluttered.
Mhm.
My recommendation is don't use less than like 22 size font because then
Mhm.
the screen just gets too cluttered. You brought this one back up. Look, we're on slide number 10. And
Mhm.
so you've already told me like about the product, and then all of a sudden you started adding a whole bunch of new stuff.
Mhm.
I know this is, it seems like it's kind of like a milestones, like where you're trying to go.
Mhm.
I would incorporate that a little bit differently because you also do it someplace. Maybe that's what that's supposed to be. Oh, here. I would redo both of these slides and say, hey, here's the next 5 things that we're going to develop.
Mhm.
Really clean, really easy. This is really hard to read and listen to you at the same time. Like, I bet this font is like size 8. So,
It's like very less size font, so
yeah, yeah.
I
So,
understand.
yeah, keep it bigger. Okay, we already talked about that. Team is good. I like this. I would say, make sure this is a branding thing. So you talked about this brand of the company.
Mhm.
The colors are okay. They're really bright, and I think that's very common in India. So that's fine.
Mhm.
But I would just
Mhm.
make sure these pictures could all use touched up to make it look like it's all one message, right? Like if you were ever to look at like something Tinder does, you can see the branding all the way through, and I think that's going to be important just as a company.
Mhm.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So that looks good. Ask slide looks really good. This is fine. Milestones. 2 million installs. That's top 20 cities. Okay. One thing that I would do here is I would change this from 2 million. I would say we're gonna launch in 20 cities.
Okay.
This
Just
top
launch
one is
it.
an outcome. These are the
Mhm.
milestones because I can say, did you hit all 20? And
Mhm.
then I can say yes or no. And that's all I'm looking for here. Like, so then it's also like we're going to build out 5 features. We're going to test out 3 different business models. These are those major milestones that are the money is required to hit these things. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I think this is fine. Use of funds. That's good. You could add the terms. So is it a safe note? Is it, priced around whatever? That's something you could here. And then, you did 24 months. That's good. Yeah, so terms would be a good one. And then the other thing that I would add on this slide, and this is the Tim Cooley, if I could change anything about pitch decks, I would combine your contact me stuff with this final slide as well. And the reason for that is this slide typically, your last slide, whatever it is, gets the most airtime. And you actually want to keep people here so they can remind themselves what you're doing. I would reintroduce the company name up at the top. Oh, it's your icon's there, but put the company name and what you guys are doing, up here at the top and replace these. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. That was awesome. That was a lot, but this is like, you guys I feel like you're going in the right direction. The traction's really cool. And so congratulations on that.
Yeah. So it's primarily that particular sort of insight and backing up with numbers that provided us the required conviction. And what we see, Tim, is it's a very good statement. I'll just like to again repeat it, that this is not just for the pitching aspect. I'm just generally sharing or sending this message out that interests, they are at the intersection of personal growth and connections. So I'll just give you example how. Say I'm meditating. So meditation increases my capacity to connect because now I know myself more. I have gone into that particular layers of my inner being. Are you getting me? And that's why it increases my capacity to connect as well as personal growth. Because if I'm meditating, my all of my mind power is improving, my concentration focus is improving. So there are 3 things: interests, personal growth, and connections. And interests are at the intersection of personal growth as well as connections. And when we see it like this, and how we can provide universal appeal to all these 3 particular things to a mass audience, it creates a very huge impact. Because relationships are investments,
Right.
right? So, and interests are exactly that lever which will turn relationships into investments.
Sure.
Say if 2 people are into meditation or they are into complementary interests, say dance, music, or anything. If they are into interest, they are by default getting into that particular loop, which is growth, and they will automatically connect in a very improved manner compared to if they had no interest or if they had no touch point to talk about. So this is a very great thing. And any interest, like Ador conversation channel is also about that. If you see all the leaders, they're talking about interest, they're talking about their unique stories and how their life was completely revolved around that particular interest or hobby and how they made it very big. So it's like a fun ride, and we are just
I love it. I think
we,
that, again, and this is the business side of it is traction proves your theory, and you guys are getting that, and that's great. I think you need to build to that traction because, again, as an investor, I'm like, okay, I've heard this pitch before. I've heard this. I've heard that. Okay, interesting. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, show me what you've done. And then you're like, look, and you're like, oh, I see. You're an actual business, and you do care about your product, right? That's really what I care about. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, hey, it was really nice to meet you, learn more about your products. Again, people, if you're out there, this is a free podcast. We love helping people. Please apply and check out the Pitch Deck book if you haven't done so already. We'll see you later.
Yeah.